What's up, guys? Let's talk about what's trending in music this week. And it's going to be Glastonbury charged this whole episode because I think it's impossible to talk about what's happening in music without just really looking at the moments of Glastonbury. So I'm just going to jump right into it. And I think what I would like to talk to you about first is some of the more politically charged performances that we saw. So Kneecap and Bob Vylan were the two probably most talked about political bands of the festival. Kneecap are very well known for their political statements. They talk a lot about the IRA. They're very pro-Palestine. When you even look at some of the videos of the stage that Kneecap performed on, it is a literal sea of Palestinian flags. And so from this, the BBC, because I should mention, Bob Vylan and Kneecap were playing on the exact same stage. Bob Vylan playing at 2:30 till 3:30, and then Kneecap due to come on at 4 p.m. And the BBC said, we're not going to be streaming Kneecap's performance on the BBC because of the, politics that are going to be mentioned. It doesn't align with how the BBC, rolls out their content. So we're not going to be streaming their show. That's just what the decision that the BBC had made. Now, Bob Vylan knew this, and they came out on stage, and they weren't exactly what I would say unpolitical. They came out and they made chants. They made very, very clear on where they stand within politics, on which side of history they stand. And a lot of critics were calling them anti-Semitic. It was all very politically charged, including some of their lyrics. And a lot of people are calling it aggressive or inappropriate, saying that it wasn't, appropriate for a festival. Now, this was all live streamed on the BBC. There was even a moment where the frontman of Bob Vylan literally said to the crowd, I know that the BBC editor is going to have an absolute nightmare with this performance. However, it was live streamed online and it was, viewed by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. You can go and look this performance up right now. You can go and see exactly what I'm talking about. So that happened. And then, of course, Kneecap took to the stage. Now, Kneecap, as I said, are very well known for where they stand within politics. They're from Northern Ireland. They're very clear about where they stand with the IRA. And they did exactly what the BBC anticipated. They came on and they gave a very politically charged performance and speeches as well, which you can also go and look up if you have the time. Go and listen to what they said. I should also mention that when Bob Vylan got all of this backlash or people calling them anti-Semitic, they did put out a statement. They were saying that it was protest music and not hate speech. And so I guess it raises the question, are artists responsible for how their messages are interpreted? Or is that the cost for platforming raw and revolutionary art? And the thing is, Glastonbury has always been political. So we can look back at Stormzy, his performance in 2019, where he used his headline spot at Glastonbury to speak out about the injustice of young black kids being criminalized in a biased and disproportionate justice system. So this isn't new. Music being music, it isn't new to see politics and music come together. Amyl and the Sniffers as well, which so proud, Australian. They also went out on stage. They made a very politically charged speech. So it's not new. And I'm curious to see what you think. Do you think that festivals like Glastonbury should be a place for political expression, or should it be about escapism and the music only? I'm curious, so please let me know what you think. Now let's talk about the headliners of the festival. Of course, there's Olivia Rodrigo, and she nailed it. She brought out Robert Smith from The Cure. It was just an amazing, incredible performance to watch. And also like the vibe from the crowd when he came out, of course. She also said one of the best songwriters in English music history. And a lot of people in the comments are like, yes, he's an amazing songwriter, but is he the best of English songwriters when you've got people like Paul McCartney, John Lennon? There's a lot of amazing songwriters to come out of England. Anyway, that's what she said. And people were I suppose that's where some of the conversation was. She also was in the comments. People were saying, and it was an amazing performance, but it felt deeply over-rehearsed and maybe lacked a little bit of depth. But I think people just love to bring young women down, and I think she did a really incredible job. So props to Olivia Rodrigo. Then, of course, there was the 1975, and it was irony, and there were smoke machines, and there were ciggies being smoked, and it was amazing. And Matty Healy, of course, delivered an amazing performance. My personal favorite moment of this performance was when Matty said, this moment made me realize I am probably the best songwriter of my generation, a poet, ladies and gentlemen, generational wordsmith. And of course, this was throwing shade at Taylor Swift. If you know, you know. The thing is, though, after he made this little stab, or I don't know if you'd even call it a stab, at Taylor Swift, he then played the song Chocolate, and then he had the lyrics above. So he's saying he's a generational wordsmith. He's one of the best poets of all time, blah, blah, blah. above the stage when he's playing this song Chocolate, there's the lyrics to the song, but they're all written in gibberish because if you listen to the song Chocolate, you can't understand a word he's saying. So he's being sarcastic and he's having fun with it. But of course, some of the Swifties didn't really understand that and they've taken it, very seriously. Whereas Matty Healy is well known as a very unserious person. And I personally think it's very, very funny. So yeah, whether or not the Swifties picked up on that is another story. And of course, Neil Young headlined as well. And watching him play Harvest Moon, I just wish I could have been in that crowd. Some of the comments on there, of course, there's like this conversation going on between like the older generation of music lovers and the younger generation of music lovers. People in the comments saying things like, this legend doesn't need fancy stage nonsense. He doesn't need dancers, machines, or auto-tune. Just gets the job done. Amazing. The same sorts of people were giving Charlie XCX a bit of shit as well, saying, what is this? Like, don't understand her music, which I kind of get. If you are if you're of the generation of the boomer generation, I can understand why you wouldn't quite understand Charlie XCX and what she's delivering. Charlie, in her true fashion, went online and she commented, really enjoying these boomer vibe comments on my Glastonbury performance. It's super fascinating to me. So yeah, it's just, you can see the divide between old and young. But at the same time, I did see comments of people being like, I'm 60 years old. I listen to Charlie XCX every single day. So I don't think we can generalize there, but it is just quite interesting to see sort of the divide in that, and to see also when you listen to somebody like Neil Young and somebody like Charlie XCX, just how like music has changed and shaped over time. And so I think that's just something to mention. And of course, it wouldn't have been Glastonbury without the secret sets. Lorde showed up and she performed in the Woodsy stage, I believe, her whole new album Virgin, and it was like 11 a.m. or something in the morning, and they literally had to close the tent. They had to stop letting people in because it was filled with so many people, and really intimate as well. And she delivered an incredible performance. You can watch Lorde, whether or not you like her, you have to admit that she is a force. Like, she's very, very, very good at what she does, and it was all about connection. People coming out of the tent saying, because she closed with Green Light, people coming out of the tent saying that it was like an electric, that felt like the tent itself was levitating. And to have been part of that would have just been so fucking cool. I am so jealous of anybody that was in there. But the performance that stood out the most for me over the entire weekend was, of course, Lewis Capaldi. So if you don't know, in 2023, Lewis Capaldi performed Someone You Loved. Lewis at the time was going through a really big mental health issue. He had Tourette's, or still does have Tourette's, but he literally could not perform this song. He came out and he had to have the crowd. They were literally singing it back to him so loud. He's tearing up. It was one of the most heartbreaking, horrible performances I have ever been witness to. Not that I was there, but we've all seen it online. And it was so heartbreaking watching him. All he wants to do, I don't know if you've seen his documentary, all he wants to do is to perform and to sing, and he loves it so much, but his body just wasn't giving him the option at this time in 2023. Fast forward to 2025, Lewis Capaldi comes on stage. He has this incredible intro where he's got his own voiceover playing. He's talking about how he's got global success, except in America where it's very hard to break into the market. He comes on stage and the green confetti is shooting out the front of the stage, and it's just like a complete contrast to what his actual music sounds like. Fast forward to him playing Someone You Loved, and this time he says to the crowd, I was here 2 years ago and I wasn't able to perform this song for a very different reason. This year I'm here and I don't think I'm going to be able to perform it for you for another reason. That reason being that he was so happy that he was able to be back on the stage doing what he loved, and watching that crowd sing Someone You Loved back to him was like, there's some people in this world, I don't know Lewis Capaldi from like a bar of soap. There are some artists in this world that I am just so fucking happy for their success. I just want them to have the entire world. And Lewis Capaldi is absolutely one of those people. Fun fact, when I first heard of Lewis Capaldi, it was when he was on the Graham Norton show and he was cracking me up. He was just saying some sort of joke. And I thought he was a stand-up comedian. I literally went to YouTube and typed in Lewis Capaldi stand-up sets. And of course, I realized then that he was a singer, and I got completely into his music and completely fell in love with who the person that he is and his absolute raw, authentic, true self. So to be able to see him on the Glastonbury stage in 2025, coming back from where he was 2 years ago, and he literally hasn't performed since. It's the first time anybody has seen him on stage since 2023. What an absolute honour it would have been for him, but for all of us to be able to witness that and to cheer him on along the way. So Lewis Capaldi, if you ever see this, I'm so happy for you. I really am. And that's kind of the wrap up for the week. Next year, there is no Glastonbury. It's a fallow year. So basically that means that every 5 to 6 years, they don't throw the festival. They give the land some time to recover, but also some of the locals some of the time to recover. So Glastonbury is not going to be on next year. But I'm curious, where do you see the festival going? Who would you like to see in headline? Should we have more legacy acts, or should it be more towards the new generational acts? Should it be more political? Should it be more diverse? Very curious to hear what you think. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully in 2027, I'll be able to actually go to the festival. And yeah, we love Glastonbury. Yay. Thanks, guys. Have a lovely weekend.